New computer. I can't even do it on Facebook Live. All right. Yeah, because I sent it last week on my regular. Wow. Because everybody else is on. That's coming on.
Brother Omar.
Yes. Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'm just trying to get things together here. Is everybody else is on?
Yeah,
Denise
Omar,
is on
for you.
All right. Hey. Oh, wow. Okay, because well, yeah, this is new, and it's not even gonna allow me to do Facebook. Wow. Is anyone able to share this on their Facebook page? I got this new laptop and it's not working like it. It's not showing.
I should be able to, but you may have to make me the host.
I mean, I'm recording it on my
All right, let me see.
I'm recording. Okay, while I do that, let me. Okay, I'll be right back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because everybody. Wow. This is new laptop. This is the first time I just got a new laptop and it's not working like my other laptop, so it's not allowing me to do yeah, I have everybody else, yeah. Okay. All right, okay. Okay, I appreciate it. All right. All right, good night. All right, thank you. All right, how's everybody's, y'all?
Good. How are you?
awesome.
All right, so Jason, how you doing?
Hey, doing well. How about yourself?
Okay, we're about to start, but I'm recording on my, all right, I am recording this on my laptop, so I'm going to have to do it like that and transfer it to Facebook. All right, so we're about to start right now. Good evening and welcome to the Zoom Facebook Live edition of Showtime Television Productions. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. Today's topic of discussion, we're doing the effects of mental health and substance abuse disorders in the minority communities. And my special guests, I have LaToya Caldwell, Jason Coleman, Mitchell Coleman, Denise Rodriquez. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining in.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so what I want to do is I want everyone to start just give an introduction, who they are, who they work for, and what they do. I'm gonna start off with Jason, Mitchell, Denise, and then LaToya.
Okay, hello, my name is Jason Coleman, and I'm a community educator for the Mental Health Association in Delaware.
Hi, I'm Denise Rodriquez. I'm a program manager at Horizon House Recovery Drop-In Center.
Mitchell?
Hi, my name is Mitchell Coleman, and I suffer with mental health and substance abuse. And in fact, I'm considering starting tomorrow morning to get into an outpatient.
Okay, and LaToya.
Awesome.
Okay. And my name is LaToya Caldwell, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, licensed clinical drug and alcohol counselor. And I'm the owner of Work Life Behavioral Health, located in Glen Burnie, Maryland, where we do outpatient mental health and substance use services and psychiatric medication management.
Okay, so LaToya, I want to start off with you. What are, and if anyone else want to chime in, they can, but what are some of the most common mental health disorders, diagnoses that you see among those in the African and Hispanic communities?
Mhm. Well,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah, from a mental health disorder as well as, then we can get into substance abuse disorders.
Yeah, so what I would say is most common is what I call the cough and cold of mental health, which is depression and anxiety. You know, I think all of us suffer to some extent with those disorders, but for people who have persistent and severe depression and anxiety, it can be crippling. And I often see it in people in our community as a result of what I would say is more trauma. And trauma is very common. I see it, you know, in our community of people of all races, or I'm sorry, ages, both genders, male and female. So definitely trauma, depression, and anxiety.
Okay. Anyone else want to chime in? Jason, I know you with the Mental Health Association. I know sometimes you guys have support groups. You have people come in. Is there a particular diagnosis that you see more among those in the African American and Hispanic communities, more so than others?
I don't know that we really track that specifically, as much as we look at what is available in the communities for people to connect to in terms of those kind of wellness groups and things like that that they can access easily.
Okay. Now, substance abuse. You know, I'm looking at this thing, and I see sometimes, you know, when it comes to opiates, painkillers, something like that, I find that that particular type of substance abuse may be more prevalent among those from a different particular culture, more so than African Americans. Whereas African Americans, I may see marijuana, I may see cocaine. Mitchell, you talk about your history of substance abuse as an African American male, and Denise, you can chime in as well. Do you see more substance abuse disorders that affect one community more so than another?
Well, for me, I noticed a recent spike just with myself during this pandemic, because in my situation, I would go to the Overcomers, that was church. Then they stopped us from going to church, but they didn't close the liquor stores. So when I come outside, there's a liquor store to the left and a liquor store to the right. So it was very hard for me because I go to school online, I work online, and I miss just going to talk with a therapist. So I thank you, man, for this, because this is reminding me that I need to get back to talking like one-on-one with therapy, group sessions, and you know, education and all that is important. But for me, mental health and substance abuse treatment must be essential.
Denise?
Absolutely. You know, like I said, I run a recovery drop-in center. We have a large portion of our clients who are dual diagnosed, both have, you know, mental health issues as well as substance abuse issues. I can tell you that since this pandemic, I have seen an increasingly large number of people who are relapsing both on their drug of choice as well as their mental health, an elevation in their symptoms. And just as the gentleman was saying, it has a lot to do with not being able to have that direct contact with their providers, not being able to socialize, going to groups. And it's just, to me, it's just been a really big challenge. But I can honestly say that our doors have remained open, but where we were, you know, able to see 30, 40 people throughout the day, we can only see 5 people at a time so that we can, you know, maintain protocol through this situation. But we do still provide services. We have peer specialists throughout the day that are able to talk to anybody that walks in. And the great thing is you don't need an appointment. You can just walk in, and we help individuals also get connected with services.
You know, when I graduated in 2003, you just mentioned the word peer specialist. That is kind of a new term that came about maybe 6-7 years ago, maybe less. I never heard of a peer specialist. So those who are watching, what is a peer specialist? How does one become a peer specialist?
So a peer specialist is someone with lived experience who can work with people in our community so that they can better identify. When I say lived experience, I'll just say from my point of view, I have a mental health disorder. I suffer from depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. So a peer specialist is able to identify with the population that they serve. So our center is run by peer specialists. And it's real easy to become a peer specialist. So if anybody wants information, they offer free trainings. And I do believe that even through this pandemic, you can actually still attend trainings to be a peer specialist. So it's attending, I believe, 6 sessions and then taking a test and then having the willingness to want to, number one, continue to work on yourself and work with others.
Mm-hmm. And Jason, the Mental Health Association, I went to your conference last year, and I saw on the panel that you had some peer specialists on the panel. So is your organization, the Mental Health Association, where are you guys working closely with peer specialists?
Yeah, there's an actual division of our office that does certified peer specialist training, and they're conducting that throughout the state. So they're great to get in touch with because they have kind of a course that people go through, observation hours, internships, all these kinds of components that really, as they're looking at certified peer specialists, I think that there's been kind of a move for a lot of the organizations that are interested in this to try to have some standardization of what it takes so that they kind of have an understanding that anybody who comes to them that would be working with them is going to be versed in some different skills and knowledge base. So they deal with that on, at the Mental Health Association. There's some folks that I work with. There's a whole team that deals with that.
LaToya, in your state where you reside in Maryland, are you seeing more and more peer specialists?
Let me tell you, I absolutely love our peer recovery specialists. I actually sit on the board and I helped bring the certification to the state of Maryland. I actually did a peer training today, training peers on how to do family peer support, how to take off one hat or make the referrals. But, peers are the face of recovery. They are the example that recovery is possible. I feel like they complement what I do as a therapist. I'll give you an example. I had a client who had never gone to a 12-step meeting. He didn't know what to expect. I called up a young male who I felt would be a good match for my client and told him, look, my client is nervous. He doesn't know what the meeting is all about. This peer stepped in. He educated him on the recovery, on the 12-step meeting, the 12 traditions, what to expect. And my client went to the meeting with the peer. My client came back. He was so happy. He had even shared in the meeting. He was saying how comfortable he was. He had met people. And that's the beauty of peer support, is that they relate, and that mutuality, that respect, and having someone that you can look to as a role model and give you hope. Because, the peers are not dope dealers. They're hope dealers. And they're doing stuff that we're not doing as therapists. They're sharing a story that we can't share as a therapist. So me, I'm 100% about recovery and peers. So I can talk about them all day.
And the wonderful thing about peer specialists is that you don't just see them in peer centers, or you don't see them in a therapist's office. You can go to mental health court and get a peer specialist to help you out. You can go to a doctor's office now. So peer specialists are everywhere. And I think that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Being a peer specialist, I would imagine, you're helping someone else. You're helping your fellow peer. But at the same time, you may be going through some symptoms. You may be going through some depression, anxiety, you have a substance abuse problem. So if you could just talk for a moment about the significance of peers knowing when they need to take a break to get themselves together, because if they're not together, then it may be kind of difficult for them to have to help someone else.
Was that question for me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So basically, we have a policy where I work that if you are not having a good day, you can just walk up to a staff member and say, look, I need some time out, walk off the floor. We work with each other. I have an open door policy with my staff. If they're going through something, they're symptomatic, they come to me and we process it. That is the most important thing that I convey to my staff, is that they have to be well for themselves before they can be well for anybody else. So it's okay. I do a lot of mental health breaks with my clients, or mental health days, or with my staff, where we just kind of do bonding sessions together. We keep ourselves well mentally as much as possible.
Right.
And
You know,
if I could, I just wanted to echo what LaToya was saying, and also Denise, that the things we hear back from our peers are just phenomenal. It really is something that is, you kind of don't want to have like the cliche thing that this is life changing, but it really is truly life changing. And the things that they talk about, being able to connect with people, and it's kind of also a glimpse at what a lot of people's futures can be, that, you know, you don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to have never gone through something to help somebody get through something. So even on those moments when people are kind of struggling with things, that they really are able to relate, you know, to the people that they're working with, and say, look, you know, I've truly been where you're at. I'm not just trying to tell you about what I think you should do, but I'm just giving you an idea of things that maybe they've tried, or things that the other people that they've worked with have tried. And it really is such an important part of recovery. It's great that finally it's getting the spotlight that it is getting now.
But what I want to say, Omar, is that, you know, the same concerns that you have about a peer that may be struggling or relapsing, I think anyone in the health and human service professional should be concerned about their own mental health. We can't help other people if we're not helping ourselves. So for me as a therapist, I make sure that my therapist is on speed dial. So I think that we don't want to stigmatize or just assume, just because a peer put out there that they're a person in recovery, that they're at higher risk of causing harm to clients. We're all at risk if we're not taking care of ourselves as human service professionals.
Absolutely.
Mitchell, have you had experience with working with a peer, or are you interested in being a peer yourself?
Yeah, I'm very, very familiar with the process. But like she said, you know, there was a gentleman, she said, that had to get with a guy, and it was his first time going. For me, going back tomorrow is almost like my first time going. I'm scared. I wanted to drink today, but I'm glad you guys have this session, because like I said, I got to go to this session. Because for me, this is therapeutic. But really, I'm just scared. I'm embarrassed. And I know how the process works. I want to get back on my Prozac, but I'm out of medication, so I've been self-medicating. And I'm hurting right now. I'm just really hurting. And I'm glad you brought it up. And, you know, I'm under a lot of pressure because I'm in the University of Delaware for strategic communication, master's degree in journalism. As a journalist, I'm always telling people what to do, but I can't do it myself. So, yeah, I definitely can relate. And, you know, for now, it's just me dealing with the fear. And I just come to find out that University of Delaware, they sent me an email just so like I was looking for your email. And they said, if you're struggling, man, we have counseling right here at school. But I was so focused on school, I forgot that, you know, I need the help. I thought I graduated from mental health, and it's something I need on an ongoing basis.
You know, just listen to Mitchell, it reminds me of the word resources. There may be those out in the community who may need some therapy, need some individual counseling, may need some group counseling, but he or she may not know who to turn to. So resources is very significant. So Denise, I know the Peer Recovery Center has resources, and Jason, I know the Mental Health Association has resources. So if you two can just chime in and discuss the significance of the resources available in your respective programs. We start off with Denise and Jason.
So we work very closely with the Bridge Clinic. We have individuals that may come in, they may be in some sort of crisis, they may need to connect with a mental health provider, but for most places you can't just walk through the door, you have to go through an evaluation process. So we utilize the Bridge Clinic quite often. Whenever a client is in crisis, we depend on the crisis hotline. They will come right to our center and pick somebody up and take them to Meadowood, Rockford Center, or treatment, depending on what happens through the the evaluation process. So we have a lot of community organizations that we partner with. That whenever we need something, we pick up the phone, we call, and they're very responsive.
Jason.
So we're I think unlike what Denise and her team are doing, we don't provide direct services. But we do get a ton of people calling us because they have a family member that they're concerned about. That tends to be what's typically was typically happening. Although there are quite a few people that call us directly because they themselves need help, but they're just unsure of where to go or what to do, and it might be their first time, exploring treatment and exploring recovery and that sort of thing. So we work with everybody on a case by case and try to direct them towards things that would be appropriate and close to them. And we keep an open line of communication with them in case they want to or need to reach out to us. I tell people if we got to talk 100 times to get you the thing that you need, that's okay. We don't want you to be alone in the process. And then we also do sponsor, we've moved our support groups that we were doing in the community to online. So we have wellness groups that are happening, I believe, 5 days out of the week at least. So at various times. So people can join in those, and those are free to join into, and they can connect with other people that are, that might be sharing some similar situations to them.
Right. I was talking to one of my clients, and I think, support groups is very significant. So I want to touch on that for a moment. But I think one of the barriers in regards to support groups is, because of this pandemic that we're in, you said online, and a lot of people don't have computers. Some of the libraries have been closed, and they would go to the libraries, to go online. Just talk for a moment.
For us, not specifically online. They can access it online, but they can also access it via phone.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah. So people can call into the meetings, or if they wanted to get on a meeting, kind of like how we are right now, they could get on this way online. But we've actually, we've seen that it's been very successful because it actually eliminates the barrier of kind of going someplace new and unfamiliar, that sometimes people have an anxiety around this, or they're not sure what to expect. So it's easy for them to call in and listen and chime in if they feel that they want to, but not in the same kind of an environment. Particularly for people that have social anxieties, that can be a really tough thing to do.
And Denise, I know I've seen you in action. I've seen you facilitate groups, and wow, you do an awesome job. People can't wait to come in your groups. I want you to speak for a moment about your experience in terms of being a facilitator. What actually does a group look like? Because those in the audience, we as professionals know what groups looks like, but just tell us what happens in a group, what it's like. And Mitchell, I know you've been in groups, and what is your experience in terms of being a participant in groups? So let's start off with Denise.
So unfortunately, because of the situation, and we can't really have more than 5 people in the center at a time, we're doing fewer groups at this moment. But our groups are pretty hands-on, exciting groups. We do life skill groups, coping skills. We have our peer specialists that share their stories. We do recovery groups. We do rap groups. We're all about groups. Like our drop-in center is a place to be productive. It's not just a place to just sit down and watch TV all day, although we do watch TV. But we encourage our clients to be productive. We encourage them to actually use we do have computers on site. If they want to do any of the Zoom group meetings, they can use our computers. And we also encourage our clients to, if they want to come up with a topic and they want to run a group, the staff will support clients in running groups, and it makes them feel that they're a part of something really important.
Okay, Mitchell, what has been your experience in terms of attending groups?
Well, I recently went to, I guess it was December, in January, I went to Meadowwood, and they basically took a laser, took our temperature. We had to wipe down our areas, sit every other seat. And I loved it, man. The van would come get me in the morning, and it got me, my healthcare took care of maybe 30 days. So I got 30 days clean, and I had like a structure. And then the people in the group could relate to what we were all going through, even through a pandemic situation. So yeah, I really enjoyed having something to do. It's when I was supposed to go to the next step and follow up. And if some of the people here that have services can give me a phone number or address that I can reach out and let the public know that you guys have resources because it's vital. It's vital. I thought I could just say, okay, I'm good after this old little 30 days. And it got horrific once I got by myself, you know, left to my own devices, man. And I'm a beast.
Right. So you mentioned 30 days, and I know some people who've been sober 30 days, 60 days, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and then one day they relapse, you know, and they may have been contemplating for a while in terms of taking a drink or doing substance abuse. So what are some of the common reasons? I want to throw this to Mitchell and anyone else who wants to chime in. What are some of the most common reasons as to why one may relapse? And I ask that question because people say, maybe you was doing good, maybe you was going to school, you was working, you was doing this, you was that, you was on point. And what happened to you? Go ahead, Mitchell.
For me, I had stopped doing what I was supposed to do.
Okay.
You know, I felt as though it's what Reverend Daniels calls, I have arrived. You know, I felt like, okay, I got this. I don't need them people down at the group no more. I don't need to go see maybe Dr. Bailey or whoever I was seeing. And it got so bad that I actually went to force speak to the police station and refused to leave. I said, y'all gonna have to lock me up because I knew if I went home, and right now I moved out where I got my own little spot, nobody to talk to. I said, y'all gonna have to lock me up or I'm going to hurt myself. And I kept asking for a ride to Meadowwood, and they talked with me. And now I got these court papers, and I think somebody mentioned mental health court. I got these court papers. It's just been delayed during the pandemic. But I'm looking at these court papers like, man, I mean, it got so bad that I asked to go back to prison because, see, in prison, there ain't a liquor store. And I can't open the door. So psychologically, I work on myself. It's when I'm out here and I got it going on that I got my freedom, that I self-sabotage.
Okay. Does anyone else want to chime in?
I love Mitchell's honesty, and I just want to congratulate him. I thank you for being here. I thank you for being honest with yourself, because that's the first step in getting back on the road to recovery. And when you talked about having fear, it's okay to have fear, but it's how you handle that fear. And you got two ways to deal with it at this point, Mitchell. You can either forget everything and run, or you can face everything and recover. And that choice is yours. But what I want to say is that you're doing the right thing by seeking support. And, you know, I hope that if you, you know, you said that you've reached out to your therapist, you've considered some groups. You know, I don't know if you consider some sort of medication assisted treatment, you know, just to kind of, I don't know, you know, that's a controversial topic. But for me, I feel like there are many pathways in recovery, and whatever will get you back on the road and get you healthy, that's all that matters.
Mitchell, I just want to say thank you for sharing what you shared as well. In visiting a lot of the facilities that are giving people treatment throughout the state, because, you know, before the pandemic, I was on the road most of the time and visiting a lot of different places and talking to people that are in various levels of treatment. And so much of what you shared is so common that I kind of wish more people were able to kind of see those things and see that and hear that from so many people the way that I do. You know, that their routine is very important to what is happening with them. And also just the idea that, you know, the I have arrived idea. I think that people find that happening in all different aspects of life. You know, we all want to feel like we are whole and where we want to be, and that all the things that it took for us to get there are finished and behind us. And you know, and something really short that I had in facilitating one of our wellness groups a while ago, there was a new person that was there and a very seasoned person that was there, a few seasoned people. And the new person kind of, she kind of commented to them, you know, you folks don't seem like you need to be here. And they all kind of laughed and they said, that's why we're here. and she kind of was like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, you come here and you talk and you share and, you know, you support each other so that it doesn't get to the point where, you know, or it doesn't get back to that point, that they always have that outlet. They always have those supports and that kind of connection. And that's something that I hear from a lot of people as well, that, you know, they kind of keep up some of these things, and people are looking at them wondering, why are you here? What are you doing? You know, you don't seem the way that I thought a depressed person would seem, or an anxious person. And they say, hey, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And if it's working and you think it's working for me, great. But I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep going and keep doing it.
And I have to say that, Mitchell, you are very brave to come on here live and share your story. It takes a lot of bravery to do that. I've been in the business for well over 20 years in different capacities. I worked in the prison system, running therapeutic groups. I, been doing this for a long time, but I've only just began sharing my story within the last 5 years when I became a peer specialist. The way I used to share my story was, oh, I know this girl that had a suicide attempt, or I know this girl that used to have police contact because of her anger issues. And I never said that that girl was me until 5 years ago. And let me tell you, it's very liberating. And
yeah,
absolutely. It's very liberating to be able to do that. And it very, I can tell you that it has done a lot for me, mentally, and my strength is completely renewed when I was able to share my story. And there was a time then that I was ashamed, and that's why I always shared in the third person or didn't say it was me, because I felt that shame. But I don't feel shame, because I know that everything that I went through has helped me to be able to help other people, because I've had those experiences. So I embrace it now. I don't have to have that shame. And Mitchell, you definitely are welcome to come to the Recovery Drop-In Center and come talk to me or my staff. We would love to have you.
What's the address?
1902 A as in Apple, Maryland Avenue, Wilmington, Delaware, 19805. And if you connect with me after this, I can give you a cell phone number that we can connect with.
Thank you.
Yep.
that's peer support right there. I love it.
And and the other beautiful thing about you sharing your story, Mitchell, is you may not see the effect of it, but when people share their story, it gives other people permission to be honest with themselves and take that step of really looking in the mirror and saying, I don't have to be ashamed of what I'm seeing. I'm here, I'm still here. And there's always that opportunity for me to take another step in a different direction or back to the way that I want things to be. And when you see so many people that are struggling and to have the kind of insight that you have too, to just even know that you're in a situation where, this isn't where you want to be. So many people need somebody else to show them that or to help them with that. And so you're already far along in the path to being where you want to be. And not only that, but I think just in sharing that story, it is a really powerful thing that happens for other people too, that you're definitely going to touch somebody and have them really take a look at what they want to do and maybe need to do right now.
Jason, Denise mentioned suicide, the word suicide. I don't think we really talking about suicide enough in the African American communities. And besides, I'm on Facebook, and I see a 10, 11-year-old African American male or female committed suicide because they were being bullied. I know you guys are training suicide. How often is suicide in the African American as well as Hispanic communities, if you have that data?
Well, a lot of the data surrounding these things, it takes a long time for them to recompile it and put it back out. But but when you look at anybody in marginalized communities, so whether that's minorities, whether that's our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ plus community, all of these different communities where people may feel that they are not part of the mainstream, tend to find themselves at increased risks of needing support. That's something that we see, and they guesstimate that some individuals are twice as likely, at least, to have thoughts of of ending their life. We don't say, I will say this, it's very common for people to say the word commit. We don't say commit because that sounds like a crime. You know, when we say that someone ended their life, someone died by suicide, obviously these are kind of, you know, different ways of referring to it that, that don't also criminalize or penalize the person who may have been in a situation where they made that type of a decision. So there's a lot of, but a lot of the verbiage and the language around it, it also kind of is reflective of the fact that there's a lot of stigma around mental health, around these kind of topics, that oftentimes people don't want to talk about at all. They're afraid that they're going to start a problem or push somebody to it if they even talk about it, when really the data shows us that if anything, it's helpful for people to feel free to discuss these things and talk about what they're experiencing, because that's an opportunity for them to change their mind or to find those resources that they might need that would support them being here.
You know, I used to hear people say a while back that, you know, for African Americans to seek mental health treatment, it was taboo. It was a stigma. I don't want to be labeled as being crazy. So over the years, LaToya, you're a licensed clinical social worker. 2020, are you seeing more and more African Americans seeking treatment for mental health? And Denise, I want to ask you the same question in regards to the Hispanic community. LaToya?
Absolutely. I've seen an increase. You know, when I started my practice a little over 4 years ago, you know, the phone was ringing off the hook. And, you know, a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was African American and they felt comfortable. You know, I mean, I think that the more of us would seek treatment if there were more people who looked like us sitting on the other side of that table. But you know, it's refreshing. I'm starting to see, you know, more young men open up about their feelings and seek therapy. You know, being able to repair families, you know, to address the trauma that people are experiencing. So, I mean, I feel hopeful. I think we have a long way to go. It takes for us to do forums like this to let people know that it's okay. You know, your body gets sick, so does your head. If you have a doctor or dentist, why not, you know, get a checkup from the neck up and get yourself a therapist? You know, we all need it. And I think that as long as we continue to do the outreach and we let people know that it's okay, we all have those feelings and they're normal, we normalize those feelings, that we'll see more people come around to the idea that maybe this isn't for crazy people. Maybe this is, you know, treatment for my head.
Absolutely. I can honestly say that I don't see as many Hispanics coming through our doors that I think we need to see. I think growing up Hispanic, growing up in my culture, I know that a lot of times I would hear things like, well, you just need to go to church and you'll be okay. And let me tell you, I go to church all the time. But you do need to, you know, seek treatment for your mental health disorder, whatever it is. But you just see that stigma is still there. I had a young man present who, for, you know, he's in his 30s since he was 20, hearing voices, and his family would just say that you know, you just need more church in your life. And he was really going through a really hard time, and within about 2 weeks was able to get in to treatment through the Bridge Clinic, and told me the other day that he was hearing voices at a very minimum level. Before, he was up all night listening to voices. And, you know, I just think that stigma is still out there in the Hispanic culture, that, you know, number one, whatever happens in a Hispanic person's house stays there. You don't share your business with other people. We handle it. And they just don't really believe too much in you know, therapy and psychiatrists and medication. So I would like to see, you know, an increase in numbers, because I know there's a lot of people out there that need the help.
You know, LaToya mentioned something that was very important. Mitchell, as an African American man, how important was it for you, you know, in terms of seeking treatment, was to get a therapist who was African American? I mean, were you open and willing to meet with someone from another culture, or did you specifically felt more comfortable meeting with an African American therapist?
Well, for me, I know at the times when I was in Philadelphia, it was predominantly African American females, and we would go to like New Stop. It was called Stop, just to stop you from. And it was like outpatient in the groups, and it was predominantly in North Philadelphia, African American female, and it was to the point that the governor at that time noticed how many people were actually in North Philadelphia who weren't from North Philadelphia. We were all there from Baltimore, New York, Delaware, all these other places to get treatment. So he made it kind of this rule where now we had to go back to where we're from. It was some kind of weird thing. Like legally, they just started to, because it was even on 2020 at one time that how great they were in North Philadelphia with these ideas, but also with the people coming, you get relapse, you get scared that somebody's gonna come in your town and do something negative. So, but I really appreciate that, when I was in North Philadelphia, that there were people who look like me, who talk like me, and could, help me, even if they were Caucasian. I didn't mind because I needed the help. Right. But to know that, this looks like my sister, or she sounds like my sister when she shares that I hurt her feelings and I'm drunk and acting all stupid, you know what I mean? Right, so right. To be able to relate, and I never knew that because, I speak Spanish and some of my friends are Mexican. Right. And they kind of don't want to reach out because of the stigma, or you may get yourself or the family in more trouble by seeking help. But I never really looked at it as, like she said, the Hispanic community, they have a different culture. And maybe they do, like we say, keep it in the house and stuff like that. And how I know that, help is available. But if I don't seek it, it's not going to be there for me. So, it is. It's like I got to reach out and just get honest, because I thought I could handle this. And now I'm scared. I really scared myself back into sitting in these seats, or listening to, like, even sitting in this Zoom, because I know I really need the help.
Right, definitely. We mentioned culture, and culture is very significant in this field, as all of you know. Jason, LaToya, Denise, if you want to speak on the significance of the importance of human service organizations having culture competency type training, or some type of training in culture awareness, because it can be very significant, because one culture may believe and another culture may believe differently. So I know when we worked at Rising House and the Connections and some of the other, they have culture awareness trainings. So if any one of you want to discuss the significance of staff being trained in culture awareness.
Well, speaking from, the Black perspective, I'll say that, culture is important because we got to look at the behaviors and, what's associated with a certain group of people. So let's say, for example, if I'm treating a child, I need to understand the culture and the behavior of a child. When we have a child who's been exposed to a stressful home environment, it will change the way that their brain processes information. They will have difficulty paying attention. However, when you put that child into a school environment and they're seeing these behaviors at the school and they're not asking about the child's home environment, they're going to automatically refer that child to a psychiatrist who does not look like them, who is culturally biased and not aware of, the behaviors associated with our culture. And they're going to assume that child has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and put them on a medication, where what this child needs is support and coping skills and maybe, addressing the needs of the family. When we talk about Black women and depression, it looks a little different for us than it does in the DSM-5. When Black women are depressed, stress spelled backwards is desserts. We eat our stress away. That's why you see overweight and obesity in the Black community with Black women, because that's how we handle our stress. And then when you talk about being a strong, independent Black woman, what that basically says is that I have trust issues. I have issues with opening up to people and relying on people and being interdependent. We are not independent. We are not islands. We need support. So when we take on the burden of being this strong, independent woman, what that means is that we're on stress overload and we don't know how to cope and we don't know how to manage. That's where you see the depression and the anger, the irritability, the obesity manifests itself.
I think that cultural competency is very important, you know, in the workplace, for, you know, for people to, you know, to understand the people that they work with, because we have a very diverse, at Horizon House, we're very diverse, but also to understand your clients. I used to teach cultural competency. I did a few classes at the Wilmington Police Department years ago. One of the misconceptions is with Hispanic people, I know, and you know, me growing up, when my father spoke to me out of respect, we look to the floor. We don't look, you know, square in the face. And I had an officer say that they felt that when a person did that, it was because they're lying. And they didn't understand that individual was actually giving them respect. And I think it's important to know these kinds of things, dealing with the different cultures that we deal with, so that we're not making, you know, assumptions as to, you know, well, they're lying because they're not looking me in my eye.
And I think, you know, cultural competency 100% is very important for people to have, so that we can get a little glimpse into maybe a different way of doing things than what was happening in our specific homes. I think on the flip side too, though, it's something that you want to be careful that you're not overgeneralizing people and creating entirely new stereotypes. So now I know what all Black people do because I went to a cultural competency class and they told me that Black people think about things this way. Because I think sometimes, you know, what I see in people trying to at least understand mental health is the best thing I can probably do is confuse you a whole lot more than you were when you walked in the door, and leave you kind of understanding that you're not going to get it all. You're not going to be, I mean, if we think about what we know now in terms of mental health, well, there were experts 50 years ago, and there's a whole bunch of people that know a whole lot more now. So it's something that's constantly, you're constantly learning about it. And no matter how much you know about mental health, if I don't know the whole backstory behind a person when I sit down with them, or if somebody else is sitting down with them. When I was counseling before I came to the Mental Health Association, I don't know everything that a child that I'm working with has been through. So what I think what cultural competency does is it helps you to try to be more sensitive to some things that you maybe don't understand, or that you might be interpreting in the wrong way, or using to kind of frame somebody in a way that is unfair to them. And it makes you aware of those things, or it starts to open your eyes to the fact that maybe maybe I don't have 100% an idea about what's going on, and I should look a little bit more. You know, so you don't want to go so far the other direction, though. I think that the cultural competency makes you kind of, now I kind of have an idea of what, if I'm encountering a Hispanic woman or a Latino woman, this is what she's going to be like. No, you're wrong. That you need to go back to the class again.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's a double-edged sword in some fashions, you know.
You know, I know all four of you for a good minute. I've worked with two of you. One I grew up with, I was one met you through my television program when we talked about the annual mental health conference. I want to talk about personal achievement among you four. LaToya, man, we worked together. We got a master together, and you're a licensed clinical social worker. You got your own business. And I sat back after the last show. I said, man, she has grown so significantly. Denise, you and I were on the same team. You went from being a peer specialist to a director of peer support services at Horizon House. And Jason, you were on my TV show, and I watched you lead seminars. I watched you lead trainings. I said, look at this brother. He's bright. Mitchell, although you have some issues, mental and substance abuse, but you are pursuing your master's degree in journalism. So I just want you four to just touch on your personal achievements and the satisfaction that you're doing among yourselves, because, you know, I admire you, and I'm quite sure that there are others in the field and outside the field who admire you as well. So let's start off with Mitchell, LaToya, Jason, and Denise. Go ahead, Mitch.
Well, for me, it's quite interesting now that I'm into research and how you just did something on social media that is just for today saving my life. And how can we use social media? Because I do Yo Hood News Network. And now I'm learning how to read comments, look at emojis. This is the research we're doing at University of Delaware. And speaking of culture, there has been a spike in the Caucasian heroin epidemic. But a lot of these statistics, you would have to be a paid member of Delaware Online. Then you would have to understand all these pie charts and all this. And how do we break that down in the community and then allow the community to comment? That way we can read the comments. But if it's a paid subscription, a lot of lower income people can't afford Delaware Online, especially right now. So in my research and in my seeking recovery, it's beginning to lead me more towards mental health. And I think what God created me to honestly do, and that's not spend 24 hours in a liquor store.
Right. all right, LaToya.
Well, you know what? I just want to say that, this is my passion. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, this is something that I genuinely enjoy doing. I can't believe I get paid for it. And, I feel like, yeah, we can talk about the accolades and the business and all of that. And, my whole, husband and 2.5 kids, white picket fence. But the truth is that for me, I will never stop doing this until my community is healed. Until I pick up the next person. That's my passion. That's my dedication, is that it's not enough for me to sit here all comfortable and see that the people in my community are struggling. So I'm always going to be committed to that. So that right there is success to me, when I see the people around me being successful.
Denise Rodriquez.
So for me, I think definitely my biggest achievement has been being a mom. I've been a single mom for most of my kids' lives. I have 3 biological children, a stepson, and I think 8 others that I've raised. I have a daughter that I'm raising now. So that's my biggest achievement, is being a mom, but being well enough to be able to put my family first, but still continue to work in my community. And just like LaToya said, I get paid to do what I love. And that's an achievement within itself. And I also get to do mission trips in other countries to help people in other countries. I'm well enough to do that today. And it's exciting. I'll be going to El Salvador, hopefully in February, which I just kind of blew it. My mom didn't know that. Sorry, Mom. But I'll be going to El Salvador. And that's kind of like a, something to help me to get away from it, but still do what I love doing. So I'm proud of being able to start my own program. I was able to structure it how I wanted to with the support of my director, and I'm able to continue providing, services even through the pandemic. We have maintained our doors open, and we're always helping people, and that's what I love to do.
Jason.
I'll just be the next one to say it certainly is a labor of love. I think when you find people in this field, you certainly find people that are working, from the heart. You want to be here. So anytime anybody tells you, oh, well, that's your job, the only reason you're helping, well, I could have had another job then. Yeah, you're right. It is my job, but we want to be here. People want to be a part of that healing process, and working with people and helping them to the point where they don't need your help anymore at that time is, of course, it's its own reward, being able to see people grow and achieve the things that they want to achieve, helping people learn things, in terms of what we're doing, training people that are going to be out there, helping people with suicide interventions and strategies and things like that. That's something that everybody that I work with takes very seriously and loves to do.
And one of the things I want to mention about culture that I forgot to mention is it always irked me when I heard case managers, and this is case managers from all different cultures. I don't want to go in that neighborhood. In Wilmington, Delaware, I grew up in Northside, so I know Northside. I know Riverside, I know West Side. So when people say, I don't want to go in those neighborhoods, to me, what they're saying is, I fear African American men. But I just want case managers to be aware of that bias, because when you're serving a population, listen, they're not going to live in the rich suburbs. Our clients are not rich, so they're going to be living in different type of communities. So when you say, I don't want to live in a neighborhood, you could just be mindful of, because you could offend a lot of people. Speaking on the African American community.
Well, if I could say something, that they might live in the rich suburbs, because people experience these issues and concerns throughout. It doesn't discriminate.
Right.
The difference is when you go into certain neighborhoods, those other folks might have other resources that shield them from interactions with the police, and having a necessity to be involved in mental health court or things like that. So, people are dealing with these things across the board. But what you see, at least what I've seen in my time working with youth in substance use and kids, counseling kids in school, is that the kids that are from certain neighborhoods are under a higher level of scrutiny. They have less to rely on.
Right.
And then you see somebody who maybe is from a wealthy neighborhood who's using harder drugs and not on probation. These are real things that happen because of the vast differences in resources and also the way in which communities are looked at and in some cases targeted to try to find certain things happening in them.
For myself, I go to do outreach in every nook and cranny in town that I can. Tent cities. I go to the Badlands, which is on West Side. I'm in the North Side. I've been in tent cities and sat and had lunch with, the people that live there. They're people just like everybody else. And let me tell you, the conversations that we have, laughing, joking around, it's no different than sitting somewhere else. So it might look different, but the people are pretty much the same.
Yes, that's definitely right. What role would you guys say that spirituality plays in regards to treatment and recovery? Because, you have the churches that have the support groups, you have those who attend church services, and you see attending church services as being very beneficial. So let's talk about spirituality. I don't want to leave that out, so if anyone want to chime in, any comments about the role that spirituality plays, especially in the African American community and the Hispanic community?
Yeah, what I would say is that, spirituality is definitely, it can or cannot include religion. So you have religion, which is a set of practices and beliefs where, we're influenced by external factors, whereas the spirituality is from within. That is where our hope comes from. That's the core of us. That is what helps us find the inner strength to face adversities and overcome adversities. And, when you don't have spirituality, that leaves you vulnerable and open to mental health disorders, substance use disorders. When you feel hopeless, when you feel broken, when you feel like, there's no way out of, a circumstance. And, spirituality is necessary. We got to have some inner belief, something that some higher power, something to look to say, I can achieve this. I am worthy. I am strong. I can get through this. I have hope and belief. So, I feel like spirituality is very, very critical to the recovery process for mental health and substance use disorders.
Absolutely. And, at Horizon House, we connect with churches. They come in and they provide, services and prayer. It's purely voluntary. You don't have to sit in a prayer, but I think that the clients are very welcoming to that. I think it's very important. And, as far as spirituality and religion, I know that's kind of separate, but the same at the same time. I think it's very important. People do need something to believe in, whether it's God or their higher power or whatever it is that they believe in, and it helps to provide a structure to their life. And I think it's very important.
Yeah, Jason, once again, the Mental Health Association does the annual mental health conference. So I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year in terms of, you usually have it at the Chase Center. So it's going to be done virtually, or is it going to be canceled, or has there been talk, or what's going on?
Well, we had been planning for May the 6th. It was actually going to be a half-day symposium. We kind of changed things around a little bit. We actually have changed the name of the conference, that moving forward it's going to be the Empowering Community Wellness Symposium.
Okay.
As I think the title fit a little bit more with what the ultimate goal of the conference was, which is to provide people in the community with a sense of feeling empowered and having an idea about resources, knowledge, and being able to connect with the things that were important to them or relevant about what's happening in our communities. So we're currently under we actually had a meeting about this earlier today, actually, a few hours ago. We've currently set the date for the conference at May 6th of 2021 because of the pandemic. We have been kind of in this free-floating idea of, wishful thinking, I think, that maybe we'll be able to get in somewhere, something, life is going to return to normal. I think as the reality sets in, we want to make sure that we're, also being mindful of people's concerns for personal safety that probably are still going to be extremely high as we enter the fall. So we're looking at having it on May the 6th of 2021. And there's also, we're revising as we go that there is the potential that this could be something that we hold virtually. So we'll have information kind of trickling out about that over on our website periodically.
Okay. Hey, Denise, in terms of family support, they're going to be very crucial when it comes to a client's treatment and recovery. Some of the clients that we deal with, some of them have, the only family is basically Horizon House. That's their outlet because they might have burned some bridges with other family members, or for one reason or another, they're just not with their family. So you want to touch on the significance of family support when it comes to the clients.
Well, I want to touch on family support. First off, when you're dealing with a family member that has a mental health or substance abuse issue,
Sure.
It's very, very crucial to have that family support. Personally, dealing with family members that have had or have substance abuse issues, it's important to continuously provide support to them. It's a little difficult for me to talk about, sorry. So I lost a nephew a few years ago, and our family, we were very close. He died from heroin use, and then a few years after that, his significant other passed away from basically the same thing. And I keep stressing to people that there's a difference between tough love and no love. Tough love would be if they ask you for $20 to go get heroin, say no, but you can still give them a plate of food. Ask them if they, can I take you to a meeting? Can I go to a meeting with you? Maybe they want you to go to see their therapist with, together with them. Continue providing the support. And if you don't have a family member, then seek out places like the Horizon House Peer Recovery Center. We are family within a family. And people, come there, they socialize, they get to be able to share what they're going through with other people, laugh, joke around. It's sad, but sometimes that's the only family that they have.
Right. Miss, you want to talk on the significance of family support? I don't know if you have a comment or two.
I know for me, the family support is vital. And, as a journalist, I remember reading or talking with a lady who her son had overdosed. And she conveyed that, do you think he knew I loved him? And I was like, yeah, from me being on this end, I was like, we know you guys love us. We understand the tough love, depending on how old you are. See, when I was 19 and my mom put me out and, renting my room to my friend, I was like, look at my family, they don't love me. But I was 19 and but the family has to do that tough love because you can't be around your brothers and sisters with drugs and all kind of stuff in the house, the babies, your nieces and nephews if you're the drunk uncle. So they have to kind of put you out. But I was wondering, you know, for the family, are they seeking support and realizing that if this person should pass away during this tough love, I know for me, I know my family loves me, but you know, there's certain family members that just don't speak to me because the way I acted, the way I almost got their kids taken by the state. So they don't speak to me. But you know, I would like to be in a group setting and talk to my sister again, talk to my brother again. You know what I mean? And through the mediator in the group, somehow, even they on a phone or like Zoom or something, just tell them I love them. And thanks for sometimes even having that tough love. We understand, even though we out there in the cold, we understand why. And we know we caused it on ourselves. But sometimes the family feels as though they didn't love us or something. It's weird to explain.
I think you did a good job explaining it, Mitchell. And, you know, I love what you said when you said, are the family seeking help? And a lot of times family members don't know. They really don't know how to help. And, you know, sometimes it hurts so much for them to see their loved one self-destructing that it's easier to just kind of, you know, pretend that that person isn't there or put them out. But I never encourage family members to do that, to turn their back on their loved one. You know, you just have to love differently. You have to send the message that I love you and I'm here to help you when you're ready to help yourself. And you just set boundaries with that person just for your own sanity and for that person to know that you care enough, but you're not going to love them to death. So, you know, it's important for family members. You know, there's Al-Anon, there's Nar-Anon, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. They have a family-to-family group, a 12-week session. I'm going to throw in a shameless plug for a family wellness workshop I do, and it's virtual, so you all can sign up. But if you Google Anne Arundel Medical Center in Annapolis, the Pathways Family Wellness Workshop, we do it twice a month. It's a 3-hour workshop for families to give them a basic overview of what mental health and addiction disorders do and how it changes the person's brain, but also changes their behavior. And it also teaches them skills to communicate and to offer proper support to their loved ones. So I would encourage you all, if you sign up, you get a free $10 Target gift card just for participating. So, you know, but when a family is in recovery, that increases the likelihood that that person, that their, you know, that their loved one will get in recovery and be successful in recovery. They speak the same language. They understand, you know, the recovery process. They know what it takes. And they're there to encourage what is necessary for a successful recovery.
Oh my God, I love what you just said. And I hope I can join the virtual program that you have. I think it's really important people to understand that, you know, you can support people in their recovery, but you don't have to support them in their addiction. Continue to love them. If they call you, answer the phone, say, I love you before you hang up. Continue being a family to that person, because you never know when it's going to be the last time that you speak to that person. And there's nothing worse than getting a phone call in the middle of the night that, you know, your loved one is gone. You're not going to have the opportunity again. So learning how to love and set boundaries, just as you said, learning how to set boundaries and healthy boundaries, and not giving 100% of yourself trying to change that person, because it doesn't work that way. Just continue to love them. And I've seen it time and time again where people will close their doors and stop speaking to, you know, the person that's having these issues. And it's not healthy for you in the long run, because like I said, if anything happens, you're the one that, you know, has to deal with that guilt. So I encourage families, you know, the plug that you just sent out, I think people need to really take advantage of that for family members that are going through this, because it's very difficult. It's very hard mentally and emotionally. You go through it with your family member that's in addiction. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you know, that's the hardest part of my job. There is, you know, I still struggle with how to help a mother cope with the death of a child that she put out of the house, how to cope with that grief. It is probably the most devastating, probably the saddest sessions that I experience are those sessions of that parent that has regrets, that they could have done something different. They could have offered a different type of support, but because they didn't answer those calls and they didn't, they weren't in that person's life, and when that person is gone, they just are dealing with a guilt that is just, it's deep. It really cuts deep. So I feel for family members, but I just want family members to know that when they get help, that's helping themselves, but it's also helping their loved ones. And there's a way to do it that is supportive, but it's also, a healthy way. There's a healthy way of support.
And
Awesome.
So much of what you were saying too is so important. Like people tend to, you work with the tools that you have, I mean, this is why some people find themselves in a increased or deeper situation with their mental health, with substance use, is because they're working with the tools that are available to them. What is familiar to me, when you hear about people that are self-medicating and things like this. And the same thing goes for families, is, if you're a family member of someone, you're just kind of working with what you have seen happen or heard about. You're not working from a strategic point of view. I mean, when you mentioned even just that little brief mention that you gave about understanding the brain chemistry, what happens with somebody, there's so many people, they don't understand that sometimes the choices that people are making are so much more hardwired, that it's not just somebody who's making a choice to do this terrible thing or make this really bad decision that they understand is a bad decision, but there's things that are happening physiologically with them at those times. And so when we kind of, everybody gets trained on this, then we're all in a better situation.
Absolutely.
To support
and those are two things that I always, Omar mentioned it. I do a lot of education. I do a lot of seminars. That's probably what I do, probably 50-60% of my time. And then, therapy, individual and family therapy. But if we can get people to get education on addictions and mental health disorders and ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, if we can do that, we can prevent so many problems in our society. I think that people don't know what the risk factors are. They don't know the protective factors. There's so many things that we can do to give our kids a better chance of not having, an adult, onset of mental health and substance use disorders. But it starts with education. When we know better, we do better.
Right.
Absolutely.
Denise, you mentioned you worked at the prison system, and there's been some issues in terms of the prisons, whether people get their treatment, or they're getting their medications, or they're getting this, or they're getting that. So you being a past prison worker, what is your stance in regards to the prisoners getting people in prison getting mental health treatment?
For me, prison is sort of like, I basically do well behind bars. I basically do well in rehab, like as aforementioned. I feel comfortable, and I actually read some documents where there was a young man, and they said, listen, you've done your time. You can go. And he refused to leave the prison because he was used to them sliding his food through the tray. But, I thank God while I was in prison, they had a time for me to take my Prozac. They had a time for me to eat. They had a time for me to recreation, talk to a therapist. And like I said, for me, it's being out here. Because I'm looking at, seeking some help as far as I do well in an institution. But as soon as I get my own place and, money's coming in, that's where I struggle. But, I commend the Department of Corrections because it saved a few of our lives. It was like the worst thing to go through. But during them times, me being incarcerated, I learned to become a journalist. I learned to write the governor. And so, I kind of, commend the Department of Corrections, even though it's a rough place to be. I kind of say some of us need it, but we need to learn how to integrate back out into society.
If I could give some feedback to you though, there's also some aspects about what happens. It's not just incarceration. It has to do with environment. It has to do with schedule. It has to do with routine.
Absolutely.
It has to do with the resources that are available when you need them, not like 2 weeks after you needed them. So I also, you know, I'm glad that you're here, that I'm hearing you say that you took the best from it. But I also, what I wouldn't want other people specifically to hear is that it's an essential component to people getting better, or that there's something about it that we need, because if we take all of those components and we remove them from the jail environment and we have them more readily and accessibly available to people in the community, that's where we should really have them. That's where we want those things. We don't want people to have, you shouldn't have to go to prison to get a hot meal and a place to sleep and medication. Like, you shouldn't have to go do that. That's not the place that those things should be the easiest place to obtain them. And that says something, I think, a little bit more about our what's happening in our society, because, you know, with all of the lockdown, we're seeing so many different things fall apart in what we've all been taught is the greatest country in the world. You know, I mean, so and this isn't to you know, ignite anybody's patriotism or set anybody off to say that, you know, we're trying to say anything bad about the United States, but I think you have to look at why are all of these things happening in such rapid succession after a few months of us kind of being in this current dilemma. And you mentioned a few things that you gained from or that you were able to kind of refocus on while you were incarcerated, but those things shouldn't only be there, and those things shouldn't have been you know, like that shouldn't have been the place that you access those things. Those things need to be more interwoven into like the fabric of what's happening in our community, in our everyday lives, in getting rid of the stigma around these concerns, these struggles that people go through. That shouldn't be the place that you get those things first.
Absolutely. And I think that it is a vicious cycle. I think that when a person becomes incarcerated, they get a lot of services. I've worked in 2 different prison systems, one here in Delaware and one in Chester State Prison. And I've noticed that, especially in Chester State, where they have an excellent structure there, the offenders are able to get treatment while they're there, certifications in different jobs, so that when they get out, they can, you know, obtain employment. But what I noticed is that once they leave the prison system, that's where it stops. I had an individual show up today who was released from prison 3 weeks ago with no place to go, homeless, and is trying to maintain his sobriety. I can't imagine, I'm not in recovery, but I can imagine trying to stay in recovery from heroin, being homeless, not having a job, not having a place to, you know, put their head at night. How do you stay sober doing that? You know, so I think that the biggest thing is not having the services when you leave the prison, not having someone there to say, hey, you know, before you're released, we need to have an aftercare plan that consists of employment and a place to live. And if you have mental health issues, already have that person set up with somewhere that they can go. And if they're on medication, continue their medication. There's a gap there. And that's where you're finding people are returning back to prison, because what are they going to do? They're going to steal because they're hungry. They're going to resort back to doing heroin because it helps them stop being hungry. It helps them stop feeling what they're feeling. And then they go back to jail because they relapsed and they broke their probation. It's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes that cycle starts very young. I mean, I've worked with kids who were, you know, barely teenagers, who were planning, yep, this is when I need to get locked up so I have some place that I can sleep when it gets cold out. That's not the the fact that these are, and that's a very real, I mean, I'm not talking about 1 or 2 kids. I'm talking about many kids that I worked with years ago. That was the plan. Like that was part of like the calendar year, you know, like you're getting ready and you're looking at Halloween decorations and pumpkins, and they're thinking, what can I do so that I will get 3 months? Like what is going to constitute me getting locked up, that they're not just going to charge me and release me. They're going to keep me. They're going to make me stay. What can I do that's bad enough? And the fact that we have young people right here in our state that are doing that seasonally is a huge issue.
You know what, Jason, you just really made me think about the fact that why is it that those kids feel like their only choice or their best option is prison?
Right.
Why is it that they don't have the support that they need at home? It
Right.
starts in the home. I am a firm believer. I have a son. I can't afford to raise my son by myself. I just can't. Not in this society. The cars are stacked. You know, I mean, it's just almost impossible. And a lot of these kids don't have the support that they need. They don't have the mother and the father, the family structure that is going to give them the support and the nurturing that they need to be able to transition into adulthood, into society, and be successful. So what are their options? They be who they see. And they end up in a system that they're familiar with. They know more people behind bars than people who own businesses, than people who went to college, than people who have a mommy and a daddy and have a comfortable bed to sleep in at night. That's the problem. We have to fix our families. We have to strengthen the family so that way we release kids into a society who are strong.
I agree with you in terms of family. Again, I think there's also that I always look at that other side. Like I don't like particularly if we're talking about you know, here in the United States, what we would consider a minority community. I mean, I hesitate to use the word. I don't like to use that word normally because of the people that we are, myself included, would kind of view ourselves as minorities. We're not minorities in the worldview. We are the majority in the worldview. We are not, we just happen to be a minority here in the United States. You know, to anybody who is a person of color, you know, we're not minorities. You know, this is kind of part of the indoctrination of, you know, that you are part of this small group, but we're not. But I kind of also, I agree with you in terms of family, but I also think that there's, you know, sometimes things don't come from where you wanted it to come, but it's there, or we need to make sure that those things are there for those that don't have it. Because in America, we tend to talk about, you know, in our school systems and all kinds of other scenarios, we talk about equality when we really should be talking about equity. We should be talking about, like, do people have what they need to the proportion that they need it? You know, and I think, you know, when we're looking at those things, you know, yes, it would be great if people, if we had both, but I'm an example. I was raised by my mother, you know, my father wasn't a part of the picture in my life. But I had the things that I needed, and I had that but I was fortunate to have the family support from my mother, from aunts and uncles who were important people in my life, from other figures who were a part of my life. But that support has to come from somewhere. And we have to, I think, do a better job of trying to identify people at a younger age who need those things and then put them in place. Because everybody, we won't be able to specifically change the family dynamics for every single person. But that isn't, I don't think that should be kind of like a life sentence for a person, for a young person. Oh, you're coming from this environment, so we're going to look at you as though you're coming from a broken environment. I didn't come from a broken environment. I had a better relationship with my one parent than many people I knew had with both of their parents. So I think sometimes in terms of how we look at you know, who we're calling at risk, who we're calling saying is coming from this person's coming from a quote unquote broken home. I think that also kind of feeds into a lot of stigmatization around these issues, and in some ways it can kind of skew the way that we're looking at trying to support people, you know, relative to the needs that they might actually have.
Okay, so we're coming to an end. So what I want to do is I want to give every one of you about a minute, 2 minutes, any closing comments, as well as you want to leave any phone number, website, email, those who may want to be interested in contacting you. So let's start off with Denise.
So basically, I would like to leave everybody with the message that you know, having a mental health disorder or substance abuse disorder it shouldn't have to be a life sentence for you. There are resources out there that you can tap into. Don't be ashamed because you're not alone. Again, I'm someone that suffers from mental health disorder. I'm a program manager at the Horizon House. Actually, you can contact the Horizon House at 302-798-9590. We have peer specialists there if you're in some type of crisis. We don't actually handle the crisis, but we can get you connected. You can come to us first and we'll find out what it is that you need. So I just want people to understand that there's Horizon House outpatient, and then there's Horizon House Recovery Drop-In Center. We are the same company, but we have two different, I guess, formats. Anybody can come to the Horizon House Drop-In Center. You don't need to have insurance to walk through our doors. You can come there. You can take a shower if you need a shower, wash clothes once a week if you need to wash clothes, talk to a peer specialist, get connected with services. There's so much that goes on at the Horizon House. And like I said, everybody is welcome.
Jason?
Please get in touch with us if you need something. The Mental Health Association in Delaware. You can visit our website, mhainde.org. We're sending out email blasts every single solitary week with resources, with things that people can stay up on about what's happening in the community. And of course, we always encourage people to reach out to us. You can reach out to us at 302-654-6833. You know, our mission is to try to put people in a position to do what, to be where they want to be, or to help somebody that they care about get where they want to be.
LaToya.
Yes, Omar, I want to just start by thanking you for this forum. This has been really informative. I've really enjoyed listening to all of the speakers. And I just want to again, kind of echo what Denise and Jason said, that, you know, mental health and substance use disorders are not disorders for meaning that you're a bad person or you're an immoral person. These are disorders that can be treated. And if we start early with the education, for a lot of kids, it can be preventable. So there's education and there's support out there. If anyone would like to contact me after today, if you're on Facebook, our Facebook page is Work Life Behavioral Health and Professional Training. I mentioned the Anne Arundel Medical Center Pathways of Family Wellness Workshop. We are doing it virtually. So the next date is Saturday, July 25th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can register by contacting Kesha Brooks at kbrooks2@aahs.org, or you can give her a call at 240-755-7978. It's free, it's open to the public. Again, you'll receive a $10 Target gift card just for participating, but we really just, the goal is to get as many people educated on these disorders.
Mitchell Coleman, final thought.
For me, man, I'm sitting here and I'm taking notes, and, you know, I see Face Everything in Recovery, and, you know, Face Everything and Recover, and I also see routine. I got to get into my routine, get my routine back. And thank you for the addresses and everything else. If you guys can type in the comments so I can, you know, do my homework in this area. And to everybody on this platform, I just want to say thank you so much.
All right. Now, we have someone on our platform who just won an award for the services he has been doing in the field. Let's give a round of applause for LaToya.
Oh.
Yay, LaToya.
Can I go get my award? And then,
Okay, this is wonderful. What type of award was it?
It was the Distinguished Leader Award for 2020. It was about 2 weeks ago. We had a virtual award ceremony, so they delivered it to my house or to my office for the treatment and advocacy of mental health.
All right.
Wonderful.
So I like to thank everybody. We got to do this again. So I might be sending you guys some messages for more similar type programs. But thank you all for joining us in this very hot topic. All right.
Thank
so
you.
The next time.
Thank you, Omar.
Yeah, thanks for making the time for this.
Let's say keep in contact with all of you. Okay.